But so, mentioning self-defense and all that, and
there he is, Secret the Devil.
right, yeah,
Plunged in the lake.
yeah.
I gave the GoPro waterproof test.
Oh, we did. So Chris,
Awake at the lake. That'll be happening soon.
yeah, Chris and I had been talking about this idea of self-defense, and I was saying that if we value ourselves as humans, and we value
Mosquitoes around here.
yeah,
sorry.
right. So
I value myself. Damn it! Like,
yeah,
get out of here.
we value ourselves, and we will naturally protect ourselves from harm or wrongdoing, and protecting ourselves is self-defense. And so when we think about the world today and what we've come to tolerate and accept is okay, when we really look at it with an objective mind, we see that we're being misused, we're being abused as people, and harm is being done to us. We're being stolen from. We're being coerced and manipulated in many, many ways just to get by and live in this world. And so my question was like, well, why do we accept that? Why don't we use self-defense and protect ourselves and say no to the wrongdoings? And if we're not, then obviously there's some problem in our self-esteem as a human species, really. That we're not valuing ourselves enough. And I think that we are amazing, and as humans, that we're like the most amazing technology that hasn't been fully expressed, right?
Yeah, and like untapped,
it's
and
untapped.
that potential, that cosmic level of multidimensionality.
Yeah, the potential's untapped, and I think most people don't even think about that because we get stuck in our mundane routines and mindless routines where we're trying to
talking
just
about that
survive.
as well, like caught up in the rat race, leading with a sad face, and how does that taste?
It doesn't taste good. It puts a bitter taste in your mouth, and you tend to get resentful and bitter, and often then become depressed, where we are not in our highest power. So
as far as like, we've digested this and everything, like, and Chris and I were trying to bring about solutions like on the individual level, and like, of course, mind, body, spirit, meditation, all those things. Like, how would you say it could be of benefit or recommendation to others, in the state of like not feeling that full sense of I am, lacking courage, lacking self-respect, it may be in a self-loathing state even at worst, unfortunately, but maybe caught up in addiction to drugs that are really diminishing their self-appreciation, or
I mean, we get beaten down. A lot of people are very beaten down and discouraged and off track, but ultimately what I see is like people don't want to accept that. They're not happy, right? And there's a drive inside everyone, that says, wait a minute, like something's not right. So when you get to that place, like reach out and ask for
maybe
support.
Even to you, right?
I mean, I'm pretty darn full, but
okay.
But there, like it's like we need to humble ourselves a bit to accept the truth about ourselves and our lives.
Yeah. And as far as like your practice and what you've seen, have you seen common threads of, certain things you've been able to facilitate and help people in recognizing their own errors, or like, bad valuations of themselves?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I do mental health counseling, and the people that I talk to often have been the victims of complex trauma, developmental trauma, going back to their childhood, and lots of neglect and abuse, and parents that were they were lost in many ways, and so you go back generations.
Yeah, like we were mentioning in so many other episodes recently, but prior to this, to really set up the stage. This is what it is. This is the playing field. This is what we've all been born into, unfortunately.
Yeah, we are born into a lot of dysfunction, and we can look back in our history, our ancestry, and see like all the traumas. And I think it's important to acknowledge that and to see that, we come from a traumatized lineage, and we are,
on a cosmic level.
Effects of that. And we've been born into a system that we just take for granted as the way it is. And so we're saying question it.
Can you do a piano?
Yeah, question that. Question the world that we're in. Start to ask questions, look more closely, and recognize that you are important, you are valuable, and that when you realize, when you feel like you're being used or that something's not right, that's valid. And I think if we unite together, that we can do something about this. And we can stand together in our value and say no to the oppression.
Yeah.
Bit by bit.
And try to be more open and allowing others to help us recognize what is oppressing us in so many different ways. Like the fabrics of life is so
Talk about self-defense. So like the resistance to hear these messages is a defense. Okay?
Right. We talk about self-defense mechanisms, but like the shadow ego plays on us to like
it's an unconscious
the cognitive dissonance
trauma response to defend your wounding. And so we're all existing with all these defenses that are mostly unconscious. So the key really is becoming conscious of our defenses to our own ego, to our own, kind of shattered sense of self, and to integrate and to be open-minded to see and to question things. And we can grow in our sense of confidence and know our value through our healing.
Yeah, totally. And that's that self-empowerment and leveling up. And
so this, this idea of becoming our best, I think is necessarily tied to the principle of self-defense. Because if we don't have our boundaries and we don't value the edges of our skin, then we are going to allow experiences that cause harm to us, that beat us down. Right? So we have to value and then hold the line. Yeah, there's like 50 mosquitoes. We got to do a mosquito self-defense. Because they're driving us crazy. So that's what I got to say.
I value myself. I appreciate that. Even as a vegan, I got to swat some of these, blood-sucking vampires because, hey, we're in this dog-eat-dog world, and unfortunately, we're in a hell cycle. And part of flipping the script is tapping into that, eternal life force essence that is self-perpetuating to a degree as much as we can within ourselves. And not feeding off of, the thoughts and emotions and, even the physicality of our fellow members of this planet. As much as we can, and it's not about me preaching anything vegan or whatever the fuck. Live your life, stay balanced between those two pillars of, yes, we have the self-defense, but don't overstep those boundaries and make excuses to put excessive force on the people.
Aggression,
right? And keeping that
non-aggression principle,
the sacred feminine,
balanced with the self-defense. And first, non-aggression. But when you're encroached upon, you defend, and that is an important and necessary principle.
Yeah. We'll catch you in a second.